Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rachel and I'm a full-time fashion reseller over on Poshmark. You can find me at TheScottCottage on the app, and you can also find me at TheScottCottage on Instagram as well. I do post a lot of behind the scenes photos on there and just kind of what's going on behind the scenes. So if you are someone who are looking to be a reseller, then this series is for you. So this is going to be a 4-part series all about reselling. It's kind of reselling 101 on how to get started. Obviously, this is my opinion only, so just because I do it a certain way doesn't mean you have to do it that way. You do want your Poshmark closet to be branded and you want it to have a specific feel. This just is kind of a reselling 101 series. So today's series is going to be part 1, and it's going to be all about preparing for listing. This is a big part that I think YouTubers leave out as resellers. You know, they jump right on into listing and photographing and things like that, but I think it's also beneficial to go over the things that we do before we list items. It's a huge step that I think people leave out a lot of times, and so I wanted to go over how I prepare for listing. Like I said, this is my opinion only. It doesn't mean it's 100% going to work for you, but it's what works for me and it works well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm hoping to pop up on the screen some of the slides from my presentation because that is how I keep things organized. So like I said, this is part 1, preparing for listing. So obviously before we list, we need to source. So this is something I didn't know where to start. Obviously thrift stores are going to be the #1 place that you want to source at. They keep your cost of goods low enough to where you can turn over a nice profit. Some places that I really like that I have listed here, I have Amvets, and I'm pretty sure that they are located nationwide, but we have I think 2. We have 2 in my area, and I really like giving back to veterans. My family's military, so I do like the fact that they give back to veterans, and they also offer a discount for people that are in the military. So my husband's in the military, I have a military ID, so I do get 25% off of there. But 9 times out of 10, I don't even use that discount because they run color specials a lot like Goodwill. However, they do 50% off of a certain color for a week and 25% off of a different color for that same week. So you have 2 different colors you can look for. So I obviously am going to look for the most discounted colors. So that's why I like Amvets. I always find great things. I really do find almost new or new with tag stuff there. So I really like shopping Amvets. So if you haven't been to an Amvets before, definitely check them out. Next I have Goodwill. Now Goodwill is everywhere. Most people do shop at Goodwill as resellers. They do 50% off of a certain color, and so of course those are the colors that I look for when I am shopping. It doesn't mean that I won't pick up something that's full price if it's something I know will sell, but I do tend to pick up the color that is of the week, the color of the week for sure. Next is called Community Chests, and I don't know that those are located everywhere. I do feel like they're local, but in my local area, they everything in the store is $1. Now, that's one of the stores where I do need to launder the stuff. I've had questions about if I launder items and if I don't, and I'm going to get into that here shortly, but that's one of the stores that's going to be like the Goodwill bins. You know, you're going to get stuff that's been on the floor, stuff that, you know, needs to be laundered. So anytime I shop there, I always launder all of the items that are from there. And they don't typically have an odor. Because of the type of store that it is, I do launder those items, but everything is $1. So I have found Anthropologie, I have found Lilly Pulitzer, I have found Current Elliott, 7 for All Mankind. I have found some great brands there, but there is a lot there. It takes a while to go through. Next I have Habitat for Humanity Restore. So that's a store that I didn't really think to go into because typically the Habitat for Humanity have building material like doors, windows, stuff for building houses. But they have a clothing section, and I don't know that all of them do, but mine does. It has a clothing section, and it's really not that small. It's a pretty good size section. They do have, the pricing is a little bit weird. They have like blouses for $7, but then they have jeans for $5, which I think should be reversed. But if you can catch their stuff, they do run sales. So if you can catch their stuff on sale, you can find some good deals. So those are some of my favorite thrift stores. There are others, but those are the main ones that I like to shop at. Next, I have consignment stores. So those are going to be like your Plato's Closet is a good example of a consignment store. So places where you bring your items in and then they sell them for you, and then they give you a percentage Or I guess they give you the money up front. I've honestly never taken my clothing there, but I did go to Plato's Closet not long ago. They were having a very large clearance sale. All the clearance was, I think, 70% off, and I even found some new tag free people. So definitely check out consignment stores, especially during their clearance events. I don't know that their prices would be worth it otherwise, but the clearance events for sure. Another place that I like to check is retail stores when they are changing the season. So at the beginning of this year, TJ Maxx, Ross, and Marshalls all had a huge clearance sale, and they were just, I mean, giving away stuff super, super cheap. I saw on my Instagram a lot of resellers that were buying the stuff to resell. So that's called retail arbitrage, which is where you're purchasing stuff at a retail store at a discounted price and then flipping them online. So in my area, they've already clearanced out all of the sweaters, but it doesn't mean in a different area people might be looking for sweaters still, even though it's becoming spring. And so I've done that a little bit. TJ Maxx, Ross, Marshalls are great places to check during their clearance events. One place that people don't think to check is Facebook Marketplace. And honestly, the only time I purchase something on there is when it's in bulk. Now, if you're purchasing one item at a time, you're not going to get a great deal, because if someone's selling, say, a Patagonia fleece, they're selling it for probably about $40 to $50. You can't flip that and make a profit. But look for people that are selling things in bundles. So I'll type in women's lot, women's bundle, women's bag of clothes. Things like that will actually pull up people that are selling things in bulk. A lot of times they do this after yard sales or just closet clean outs, just trying to get rid of all of it at once. And that works really great for resellers, because it doesn't matter what sizes are in there, because we're buying it for other people. We're not buying it for ourselves. So definitely be on the lookout for that. It's very rare that I find a bundled deal on Facebook Marketplace, but I do check a couple times during the week. Yard sales, garage sales, rummage sales, estate sales, whatever you call it where you live. We call them yard sales here, or garage sales, I guess. That's where you're going to find probably the cheapest per item. Obviously, the thrift stores and stuff are going to be cheap, but per item, definitely yard sales for sure. So, because you can make deals. So say you go to a yard sale and they have all the clothing is $1. Well, if you're getting a whole bunch of clothing, you can offer them a certain price, and 9 times out of 10, they accept the price. And the reason I know is we have a yard sale at least once a year, and I am just trying to get rid of the stuff. And so I accept deals. So definitely, you can definitely counter offer, at yard sales. So be on the lookout for that. Like I said, you're going to get your cheapest per item that way. And then lastly, I have on here Craigslist. I don't get on Craigslist too often, but when I do, I'm looking for the bundle deals. Obviously, the yard sales are going to be on Craigslist too, but you're going to be looking for the bundles, bag of clothes, things like that, like you would on Facebook Marketplace. So that's my sourcing kind of 101. That's how I source. There are other places that I source, but we're not going to go into depth. Those are my main areas of sourcing. So moving on. So once you source, you're going to bring everything in, and as a reseller, in a perfect world, we would hang these up on our clothing rack, measure them, steam them, and get them listed. That does not happen in one day. I guarantee it. Maybe it did when I first started because I didn't have as much inventory, or I didn't purchase as much stuff, or I didn't have a death pile like I have right now. You guys can't see it. But as resellers, we spend hours at the thrift store. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll be in one thrift store for about 2 hours, because especially depending on the size, it really takes a long time to sift through everything, see what brands are, see what the prices are, compare them. You know, sometimes you have to get your phone out, be like, is that a good brand? I don't know. And so when I get home, I'm on the couch after thrifting. I usually don't do anything else. I will put everything in my office, and I will come back and revisit it later that night or the next day. That's just me. I don't want to get burned out and try to knock it all out. I mean, I try to get everything done, but you know, while my kids are in school, but it just doesn't happen. But in a perfect world, once we have sourced, we will take it all out and hang it up on a clothing rack, which I have sitting over here. I'll show you here in just a minute. So we're going to hang everything on the clothing rack, on the hangers, and next I measure. And the reason I measure before I steam is because the clothes are already wrinkly and messed up right now at this point. So when you're measuring, you're not messing it up by measuring it. Now, if you go and steam it and it's nice and crisp and flat, you don't want to go and measure it and maybe make it wrinkly again. So sometimes I measure after I photograph too. Like I'll go ahead and steam, photograph, and then measure. But in a perfect world, I would rather measure first. I think measuring kind of stinks, and I'd rather do it while it's hanging up than it's folded. Like I feel like if it's on the rack and it's hanging there, then I'll go ahead and get it done, versus if it's in a pile somewhere, I'm never going to get it done. And so in a real world, you're going to go ahead and measure everything. You can buy measuring tapes super cheap. They're at the Dollar Tree. You could probably get them for free from your mom or someone that does mending or something. They're super cheap. So here's mine. I'll just show you. Here's mine. It is bright yellow, easy to see, and it has like the closer up ones on that side. I tend to use this side. I also have a measuring tape taped on top of one of my dressers to do like blouses. I can do them pretty quickly on there, but with jeans and things, you have to use this. So like I said, you can find these at the Dollar Tree, Walmart, anywhere. So I'm going to talk about measuring really quickly, and then I'm actually going to do just a quick video of me measuring to show you exactly how I measure. So typical measurements that you're going to see people post on Poshmark on tops is going to be armpit to armpit, and that's just the chest. So it's literally here to here, the front there. Shoulder to hem, so that's going to be from the shoulder seam down to the bottom. Sometimes you do the waist on blouses that are the peplum waist or they're more fitted in the waist. You want to list the waist as well. And you're going to do, I always do them flat lay. So that means obviously if they're hanging up or if they're laid down, it's a flat lay. So you would double the size. Like if the armpit to armpit was 18, then that would be 36 chest. I hope that makes sense. So anyway, bottoms, you're going to measure the waist, the rise, and the inseam. Dresses, I measure armpit to armpit, waist, and length. And then bags, I measure the length horizontal, the height vertical, the depth, and then the strap drop. So that's just the things that I measure. If people do ask for extra measurements, I always will give them the extra measurements because you want to make the sale. Sometimes people will ask like the sleeve length, or they'll ask, I've had one person ask to measure the the length from the shoulder to the peplum. So that way they knew where the peplum would hit on their waist. Okay, so right now I'm going to go ahead and insert a video of showing you how I measure my items. Alright, so now we're going to talk about measuring, and this is just how, like I said, most sellers measure their items. So I do measure them hanging up, usually on my clothing rack. Sometimes I'll do them on this. This is my steamer. But you're going to measure armpit to armpit, so you do want to kind of pull it tight. You don't want it to just be hanging because that measurement is going to be a lot smaller. So you're going to go up under the armpit, and there's a seam. So you're going to place your measurement there, and then you're going to pull the shirt out all the way to the seam. So it measures 20 across the chest. And then you're going to measure shoulder to hem. So that would be 26. Now sometimes you're going to get a top, this one is a little bit, but you're going to get an high-low hem where the front is short and the back is long. And then I'll just do a range. Like I would measure to the shortest part and then to the longest part and just do a range on that one. This one I would not do a waist measurement because it's not fitted, it's just kind of loose. So the waist is more than likely going to be the same as the armpit. Next, I'll show you how I measure my jeans. So you definitely want to make sure that these are, you don't want a huge, like that. You can't measure that. So you definitely want to make sure it's tight on this. Now, I typically do measure my jeans flat. I don't really do them hanging just because they're long. But for the video, I'm going to show you. So you're going to measure the waist. Like this, do make sure it's nice and flat. So the waist is about 18.25, and I am very precise with my measurements. So more than likely these jeans were probably 18 before, and since they've been worn, they've stretched out a little bit. So I just include that in the description. Next is going to be the rise, and people get this off sometimes. So you're going to measure from the 4 seams of the front, the back, the front, the back. It meets here at the crotch area. You're going to measure from there all the way to the middle of the button is usually where I do it. So this is a 9.5 rise. So that's kind of more of a medium to high rise. I would say it's probably more medium. And then lastly, we're going to measure the inseam, which that is the length of the pant. And a lot of people get that wrong too. They measure from the outside here. That's not correct. Inseam is on the inside. So go back to, again, the 4 points here, and we're going to measure all the way down. So I like to kind of pull it tight and then let go of this top part so that I can follow it all the way down. So this is 29. So these are a little bit cropped with the 29. Alright, so next is going to be dresses, and like I said, I measure the armpit to armpit, the waist, and then the length. And this one has a very severe high-low hem, so there it is. So I would definitely list that and then list the measurements. So you would go in here, kind of pull that out, stretch from, pull it out, I'm sorry, from the armpit to armpit, it's 18. Then the waist, now this one isn't fitted or anything, but I do go ahead and measure waist, all waists on dresses. People always ask, so it's 20. And then the length, I'm not gonna do it because it's all the way down there, but yeah, I would definitely list the 2 different lengths since it's a high-low hem. And this is a halter dress, so you're definitely gonna measure from right here all the way down. So I hope that helps. Okay, so now that we are finished with the measuring, we're going to move on. So step 2 is going to be your inspection. Now, technically your inspection, it needs to happen while you're in the thrift store. Inspection begins from the moment you pick up your item. So what I do in the thrift store, now in all honesty, thrift stores don't have the best lighting. So I will grab everything that I am interested in purchasing and put it all in my buggy. And then before I check out, I go over to a corner where it's not crowded, where maybe the lighting is a little bit better, and I will go through each and every item and inspect it. Because there's nothing worse than getting home and you having a hole or a missed button or something, a stain or something like that. So you need to make sure that you're inspecting while you're in the store. Your second inspection is going to take place at home, and I usually do this when I'm steaming. So I've come home, obviously when I'm measuring I'll look, but the best time is when you're steaming, because when you steam, you're having to pull the material taut to get a nice crisp steam, and that's when you find flaws. That's when I have found set-in stains that I didn't see before because it was wrinkly, or holes in the armpit area, or a missing button, is usually when I'm steaming. And so that's the best way to find it. So I'm going to upload a quick video of me steaming and showing you kind of how I look for flaws. Alrighty, so some places to check for different flaws as you steam is going to be under the armpits on any kind of blouse, is where sometimes you will get some holes. You always want to check any kind of seam. Sorry, I'm trying to talk over, it's kind of loud. So you definitely want to check any kind of seam. Always check buttons, like sometimes one of these will be missing or something, so double check buttons all the way down here. And let's see, this is actually a flawed item, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to show you. There's supposed to be some kind of attachment here, and you can kind of see that this has been cut. This is a perfect example of things that I overlook in the thrift store. So I'll probably still list it. It doesn't really affect the product, and just mention that that has been cut. It is from Anthropologie, so I'll probably still make a little bit of a profit. It's a size smaller. I would just keep it, but anyway, so those are some places to look for flaws. So this is my steamer. This is the head. You can see the steam coming out. It's very basic. I hope to hopefully upgrade this sometime, but a lot of people just kind of steam on the outside, which is okay. But for my steamer, I like to go up underneath, and that's why I said that's how I find flaws, because I'm pulling the material out like this, and that's when I typically find any kind of flaws. Like just now, I found a stain. Perfect example. Didn't know it was there. As I'm pulling the material, here's the stain. So this shirt is I'll treat it, but honestly, I think this shirt probably is going to go in the yard sale pile. But anyway, perfect example of things that you miss while you're in the store. So here we go on the sleeve. I did want to demonstrate kind of how I steam. So steaming kills 99% of bacteria. So I steam all my items, even if I've washed, laundered them, I still steam them. I think it just makes for a much better presentation, and it makes the clothes just smell good, in my opinion. So yeah, and then I'll do the back. One thing you want to do is the tag is, see how the small is sticking up? You're gonna have a hard time photographing that. So I'll go in there and steam and make sure that that tag is down so that it can be read better. See that? How it made it. Now I don't have to put my ugly fingernail in my photo to take the picture. So that's how I steam blouses. Jeans. So these are also flawed. That's why I wanted to put them in this video. These are J brand, which are great. I actually kept these from a thread up denim box because they had a flaw right here. Is something else that I probably wouldn't have seen in the thrift store. And then another place to check on jeans is the crotch area. Just looking at these jeans, they look like they're in great condition other than that flaw. There is a loose thread here. But upon further investigation, the crotch area is very worn and faded. Now, I would just list that in the description. It's not to the point where I can't sell them or anything, but definitely list those. Always check the zipper. I had a pair of Lucky brand jeans, and I just happened to be redoing my inventory system and noticed that the zipper was completely broken. So if I had sold those and sent those, I would have had a very unhappy customer. So always double check your zippers, and then always just double check the pockets. Number one, there could be money, but number two, you don't want any trash or anything in the pockets of your jeans. So to steam jeans, super simple. I just kind of go up. I don't put the head in the on the inside because it just won't fit, especially on skinny jeans. But jean material usually doesn't steam well. These aren't really wrinkly. Sometimes I have to put them in the dryer on the refresh cycle, which I have, and it's just kind of squirts some water in there and then kind of steams them and then get them out immediately. That's kind of how I do my jeans. So real quick, I'm not going to steam this because I'm not going to sell this, and I'll show you why. But this is a great example of things to look for, flaws and things. Now, honestly, this one isn't to the point where I wouldn't sell it, but I'm kind of thinking I'll keep it for myself. When things have been washed and worn a few times, you get something called pilling, and it's just where these little balls come up on your shirt, and you can take a sweater shaver to it, but this material, it might snag with the sweater shaver, and those of you that have sweater shavers, you know what I'm talking about. When it's really thin material, the sweater shaver can actually damage your item, and so I'm probably going to pass on that. It also has some pulls, so here's one. And there was a few on the back. Here's one. And it may be meant to look like that just to make it look kind of worn because it is by, it says Lucky Lotus, which is by Lucky brand. But honestly, I think I'm just going to keep it. I really like the color and the style of it. And I'm not really comfortable with selling things that have flaws like that. Alright, last item that I was going to show you all was this dress that I showed you just a minute ago. And, you know, just by glancing at it, you don't notice anything wrong with it. It is new with tag here. But just because something's new with tag does not mean it doesn't have a flaw. If you look closer here, there's a popped stitch just here. So I can mend this very easily. I will probably still sell this and just mend it and disclose that. But if it doesn't sell within a month, I may just put it in my yard sale because it's the retail price of this was only $44. So my resale value with it having a flaw is probably $30. And then, you know, minus Poshmark fees, I'm really not going to make a huge profit on that. So I might just yard sell that. All right, so moving on. All right, so another place to check with jeans is you obviously want to check your hems, the bottom where people walk on them. Sometimes there is some wear there. Make sure to list in the description if there is some wear on the hems. Next, you want to double check all of your bags because there's usually wear on bags. So today I have this Coach bag and I'm actually going to use this in another video, so be on the lookout for it. I'm going to do a cleaning video on how to clean canvas bags like this because this one has some wear, you know, some dirt on the bag, and there is some places just down on the inside that need to be cleaned. And so I thought I would do a video on that. I had a few people on Instagram. I had posted a picture of some Dooney & Burks that I was going to clean, and I had some people interested in a video. So I'm going to do that. So be on the lookout for that. I'll probably link it in this video once it's done. But anyway, some places to look for obviously are going to be the handles. That's where people, you know, wear them on their shoulder and it just gets some wear on them. This one actually doesn't have too much wear. It has some discoloration, but the corners is probably the main place you want to double check for wear. So there's a little bit of wear on this bag. It's not terrible, but double check that. I always take photos of that too. The bottom of the bag, check for that. Also, always check to make sure that the zipper or the clasp works. There's nothing worse than getting a bag home and that being broken. Same thing on the inside, double check all of the zippers. Also, just double check and make sure there's no trash in the bag. That's another thing. You don't want to send a bag and it have a bunch of trash or something in there. That would not be professional at all. Okay, so lastly, we're going to talk about shoes. I'm not going to grab shoes or anything, but some places to check are along the heel. Obviously is where you're going to get any wear. So, you know, just check along the heel. I don't even pick up shoes unless they look like they've never been worn. Just for that reason, people don't really want to purchase worn shoes. Heels, you definitely want to check for that, for wear on the bottom and on the actual heel. Check for scuffs and nicks on that. Alright, so going back to steaming, so some places that you can purchase steamers at a discounted price are going to be Tuesday Morning, which is where I purchased mine for about $30. Bargain Hunt, you can find them discounted as well. TJ Maxx, Ross, Marshalls. Amazon and Walmart have budget-friendly options as well, but I tend to get them a little cheaper by purchasing them at discounted stores like I mentioned. I personally have an upright steamer and I like it. I know there are handheld steamers that you can use, but I feel like the upright works better because it has a place to hang your items, and I just personally prefer that. Alright, so that is about how I prepare all of my items for listing. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about photography and how I list my items. And then we're going to get into my inventory system, how I store my items, how I list them in my inventory system to make them easy to find. And then the last part is going to be all about shipping, which I think is going to be probably the most watched video because as a reseller I was freaking out about the shipping and I wasn't sure how to go about shipping my items because I'd never sold anything online before, and so I do feel like that video will be the most watched. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Be on the lookout for part 2, which will be coming out hopefully next week, and also be on the lookout for that bag cleaning video that I mentioned. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you are new, and I hope to see you next time.